Welcome to SAT TV's news. I am Shanna, Esprit, your presenter. Among the major developments, government to host ICE Festival, St. Lucia wins Best Island in the Caribbean Award, Syrian regime takes over crucial city Qasr, rebels say war is not over. And in sports, we have the results of matches played last week in the Harlem Football League. Details of these will follow.
Me say we just get the remedy for the pagan them. Me just get the remedy for bad mind and jealousy. Who want to see me dead? Me just get the remedy. Sack TV, Jammy say. You don't know a Javinci you watching Sack TV. Lord, is it straight triple dose.
Welcome back. World Environment Day is an annual event aimed at being the biggest and most widely celebrated global day for positive environmental action. This year, June 5th, marks the second year that Carib Sand and Stone has commemorated World Environment Day by giving back to the community of Point Michel.
Firstly, we have a tree planting ceremony where we're going to bring the kids and help them. With us, they're going to plant some trees because we think that though we work in a quarry, reforestation is extremely important. And then with Think, Eat and Save, it's conscious about helping people realize that the food choices they make does have an environmental impact. So when we're finished here, we're going to go up to Point Michel where we have already started the construction of some garbage placement areas because we realize in the community that the placement of garbage is sort of helter-skelter. And it poses a health risk, number one, and it's very unpleasant to look at. So we're going to go to Point Michel, we're going to construct some areas for garbage placement. So we hope that these two activities are only a beginning of what we plan to do in our effort to continue with keeping the environment sound for the people of Point Michel, at the quarry and the surrounding areas.
Students from the Point Michel Primary School and the first graders of the Convent Preparatory were present at the tree planting ceremony and gained knowledgeable information on preserving the environment.
Place your garbage in the bin and ensure that our environment remains clean and green so that Dominica will remain beautiful for everyone to have a good time. Thank you so much.
Glen Ettienne, chairman of the Village Council, addressed the students on the importance of sustaining a healthy environment.
Clearly, the Carib Sand and Stone company explained their part in that day. I mean, we're very happy and we commend them from the Point Michel Village Council to see what they have done over the period of time, the planting of the trees on the side. And now they're taking a very bold initiative, some garbage dumps to help us in the way we curb our garbage collection. And we want to take this opportunity again, once again, to commend the Carib Sand and Stone for taking on this initiative. So when you all go out into your garbage now, you will see this one, I suppose they're doing that all over. You will see there's a stump and you're going to place your garbage on the concrete stump because that in itself helps. Because we have these students, we have this dog that plays a part into destroying the garbage.
The theme for this year's World Environment Day celebration is Think, Eat and Save. In more news, principal of the Dominica Community High School, Mrs. Celia Nicholas, says agriculture plays a central role in the school's curriculum, and as such, it is a compulsory subject from 1st to 5th form. The school's motto is self-reliance for a better future. With their fundraising efforts, they raise chickens to produce eggs for sale and poultry, among others.
To date, we have supplied the market with 211 trays of eggs, 81 dozens, a total of 7,302 eggs, 1,806.3 pounds of chicken, broilers and layers. We experimented with smoked chicken and we sold it at $10 a pound. The price for a tray of egg, $15. and $5 to $6 per dozen eggs.
Mrs. Nicholas stated building strong relationships with their neighbors is important as they need sawdust to enhance the environment of the poultry farm, which is acquired from furniture workshops nearby, and in return they sell the eggs and poultry to them at a reduced price. They recently slaughtered 90 chickens to be sold to customers.
From the program, we have developed a compost. So this is a work in progress, it is not completed. From the funds we received, we were able to erect a storeroom for 25 feet long, 12 feet wide, 9 feet, 7 inches. And this came from the funds that we realized from our sales. For the production of the crops, we had vegetables, broccoli, okras, lettuce, sweet peppers, lima beans, tomatoes, corn, carrots, Chinese cabbage, and presently we are doing some cucumbers. And individuals who pass in the Rosal Valley close to our school, you'd have noticed that we had 3 beautiful sunflowers on the grounds.
This program helps the school to generate a cadre of students interested in agricultural science. Mrs. Nicholas feels it is very important that we make our students understand the importance of agriculture. Our students are not listening to what we say, but they are looking at what we are doing, she stressed.
The results at CSEC, the community high school, we have always received 100% at agricultural science. One of the few schools in Dominica, one of the few schools in Dominica that has made agricultural science compulsory. But what has happened with the introduction of the program, the school-based assessment portion, we have done very well, and this has improved the quality of the grades. So last year we got almost 100% at grade 1s. And this is because the SBA, if the students do very well at the SBA, they're going into the exam with an advantage.
The principal pointed out the marketing of their production has been very good. Our customers are 2 supermarkets, 1 primary school, and 3 secondary schools, in addition to parents and friends of the schools. Some of what they produce is also donated to needy institutions and individuals. The program has provided us with some much needed income for the school, especially as we are a government school, Mrs. Nicholas added. In more stories, throughout the month of May, activities were held in celebration of Tourism Month under the mandate Tourism is Everybody's Business, in collaboration with the private and the public sectors of raise awareness about tourism in Dominica. Under the theme Rediscover Dominica, Dominicans were urged to make a special effort to rediscover their home and to enjoy its tourism products and services. The head table comprised of Honorable Ian Douglas, Minister of Tourism and Legal Affairs, and Mrs. Maxine Arlene Esprit, Vice President of the Dominica Hotel and Tourism Association.
The Tourism Awareness Month is a collaborative effort of a number of different stakeholders. The Discover Dominica Authority, the Ministry of Tourism, the Dominica Hotel and Tourism Association, among a number of other persons who contribute to various activities during Tourism Awareness Month.
Tourism Month is a time where we can gather all media personnel as well as Dominicans to focus on issues contributing to tourism development and growth. Mr. Douglas believes that tourism is the engine of growth in Dominica, not to mention the largest foreign investor earner to date. He shared some of his highlights during the month, which included the Youth Congress, tourism cocktail and awards, and some newly introduced activities.
Some new items coming on board, and one of them that I particularly want to speak of this morning is yachting. And we did a yachting symposium last week where a number of issues were raised, and that is quickly becoming one of the areas in tourism that we need to pay some attention to. It holds tremendous growth potential because like stayover arrivals, persons coming to spend time in our hotels.
Moving forward, a particular interest will be surrounded around yachting development. There are hopes to launch a crisis development plan in the next few weeks to look into handling issues or matters or emergencies that would arise and how to go about reporting them. The media, the minister says, plays a very important role in reporting information today, and therefore we must all recognize that we need a protocol and a structure to treat these issues. A formal launching of the plan is scheduled to take place sometime in the future. Mrs. Esprit says the hike and the jazz festival combination worked very well when tested this year, and they will continue to develop this aspect of Tourism Month. Some hikers will also be honored this week at a media event in a prize-giving ceremony for the winners. Winner of the Most Steps competition, who counted 18,200 over all her hikes, Gwen Whitford, a hiking enthusiast and blogger of T. Dominic Tales, will be awarded a prize sponsored by Jolly's Pharmacy and Digicel, including a contribution to a charity of her choice of $500 compliments Jolly's Pharmacy. She concurred with Mr. Douglas on development of the Crisis Development Plan, as crises including natural disasters can prove to be hazardous to the tourism industry. In a summary, Mr. Collin Piper, Chief Executive Officer of DHTA, mentioned Mr. Craig Larond from the Dominica Grammar School, who now holds the current title of Junior Minister for Tourism.
Tourism Congress was held on May 3rd at Arawak House of Culture, where 8 secondary schools participated. Craig Larond from the Dominica Grammar School emerged as the winner and holds the current title of Junior Minister for Tourism until next Tourism Youth Congress in 2014. As Junior Minister of Tourism, Craig Larond will represent Dominica at the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Tourism Youth Congress in Martinique, carded for October 16th to the 18th, 2013.
Dominica's first Nature Island Challenge took place from May 21st to the 24th. 4-person teams comprising of endurance athletes, hiking enthusiasts, and adventure travelers competed along 6 segments of the Waiti Kubuli National Trail, as well as some of the most popular eco sites. Participating teams were from USA, Antigua, and 2 from Trinidad. USA emerged winner of the competition. This event introduced Dominica to adventure travel fans all over the world and encouraged fan participation through social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our very own natureislandchallenge.com. In other news, the government of Dominica will be hosting Information Communication Technology Fest 2013 under the theme Empowering Citizens, Embracing the Future, from July 2nd to July 4th, 2013, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. daily at the Windsor Park Stadium. ICT Fest 2013 will provide an interactive environment for showcasing ICT tools and solutions for everyday living for citizens, businesses, and government. Parliamentary Secretary responsible for the ICT in the Office of the Prime Minister, Honorable Kelvar Darroux, stated, "This fest is very important, as in the last few years the dependence on information communication technology has grown significantly by citizens and businesses and governments."
It is a fact that information and communication technology act as a vehicle in bringing services to our people wherever they are. These services include e-banking, e-government, and e-learning, to name a few. But more importantly, however, ICT brings with it a myriad of opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship. ICT is the fastest growing industry today, and more jobs are created in this industry than any other. The same prospects are true for the future. ICT has been identified as the industry that will play a major role as a key enabler of renewed and sustainable growth for world economies, as well as improve the living conditions for families across the globe.
Mr. Darroux indicated that it is our responsibility to make sure ICT provide the same opportunities for us in Dominica, as it must play a pivotal and enabling role in our development strategy. The ICT Fest, he says, will raise the awareness of the innovative approaches and amazing prospects for the effective implementation and application for information and communication technology in the lives of our people. Member of the Planning Committee of ICT Fest 2013, Mr. Ed Regis added, many business organizations have pledged their support in the fest and will be participating in the exhibitions. Members of the general public will have the opportunity to test their ICT knowledge in programming, web research, graphic design, and computer assembly races during prize-winning competitions.
One of those I always enjoy is really the Association of Persons Living with Disability. They always come on board, and it is always a pleasure to see persons who cannot see taking the opportunity to use the internet through some wonderful technology that has been made available to them. And it always draws a crowd to see, persons who are sight impaired coming and really demonstrating to you how they can use the internet. So it really leaves no excuse for those of us who can see not to really use the internet and to use the computers and other gadgets that are available within the ICT sector.
Mr. Regis believes this ICT Fest will be an excellent opportunity for the youth to acquire more information on possible careers in this growing sector. This is also an opportunity to learn how to use various electronic devices, as many persons buy smartphones and only use them for making and receiving calls when there are many other uses for cell phones, Mr. Regis explained. At ICT Fest 2013, industry personnel will conduct seminars on workshops on the Internet Exchange Point, e-learning, cloud computing, music and video production, visual effects, e-marketing, and much more. ICT Fest 2013 will also showcase innovative approaches to delivering services to citizens and businesses through e-government. The exhibitions will be conducted under the following themes: Consumer Electronics, Tuesday, July 2nd, 2013, Government and Small Business Enterprises, Wednesday, July 3rd, 2013, and Education, Entertainment and Healthcare, Thursday, July 4th, 2013. In other stories, Senior Counsel Anthony Astaphan continues to question the arrest and charge of Mr. Earl Seco Grant, who was implicated in the December 25, 2010 firebombing of retired magistrate Glenworth Emmanuel's home. Mr. Astaphan feels the public needs to know whether a meeting was held to determine if Mr. Grant was going to be charged, as this matter involves by implication the state, the Prime Minister, the government, and cabinet.
And the people need to have an answer. Why was it necessary? What led subjectively or objectively to the prosecution and charge of Mr. Earl Grant? If we do not get these answers, then I'm afraid the administration of criminal law and the office of the commissioner and the office of DPP are going to be subjected throughout this process to very serious questions about this decision.
According to Mr. Astaphan, this Earl Seco Grant scenario is politically motivated to create embarrassment for the Prime Minister and Mr. Stephen Isidore. That is in an inference on the basis of the facts of Mr. Grant's prompt arrest, his detention for 3 days, and there was a meeting to decide whether or not he would be charged, and following this meeting, that decision was reversed, then a decision made to prosecute him, explained Mr. Astaphan. There were Lintonites saying there was division in the police force on deciding whether or not Mr. Grant should be charged, but he does not know where they received such information, he continued.
Secondly, thirdly, perhaps more importantly, the only evidence ever put forward in the public domain by anybody, including the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, are the conflicting confessions of Dennis Shinford. That was the only evidence ever put in the public domain to incriminate Earl Grant. The first confession was a denial by Dennis Shinford. The second was an admission and a pointing of the finger at Earl Grant. We have heard the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Cyril Carrot, on radio repeatedly saying that there was no evidence against Earl Grant and that the confessions were conflicting, and the police force under his command, could put no credibility or reliance on them. We've had a situation where we know publicly that the file was submitted to the then substantive owner of the DPP, Mr. Glen Ettienne, who refused to prosecute on the basis of insufficiency of evidence.
However, on the appointment of Acting Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Julian Prevost, the scenario changed. Investigative journalist Mr. Lennox Linton, in response to Mr. Astaphan's statements, commented, "For someone who is not the attorney present, Mr. Earl Grant in the matter, he seems very involved."
Mr. Astaphan tells us that this case has implications for the government, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet. How so, you ask? How so? He said, oh, well, there's an allegation of state-sponsored terrorism. Where did that come from? A man's house was burned. Himself and his wife were in the house, and they could have killed them in the house. Okay? Mr. Astaphan is aware of what happened. But you remember, man, since Christmas morning 2010, Mr. Astaphan began his defense of Stephen Isidore. Since Christmas morning 2010. And notwithstanding the fact that he was defending Stephen Isidore, and didn't want anybody to link Stephen Isidore to anything, himself and his team of lawyers volunteered Stephen Isidore to the police as a person of interest.
Mr. Linton believes that Mr. Grant was used for the purpose of protecting Mr. Isidore. The evidence linking Mr. Isidore to the firebombing of Mr. Emmanuel's home can be easily determined. However, the police have not carried out a proper investigation in this matter. That was deliberate and is part of the agenda Mr. Astaphan has been working on since December 25, 2010, Mr. Linton complained. He fears that Mr. Astaphan is only concerned about shielding Mr. Isidore and by extension Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, and we need to know why.
Now, there are a number of people who supposed to be questioned by the police who have not been questioned. Anthony Astaphan is one of them. This is a man who's told us publicly, man, that he was in touch with people who were on the scene immediately as the fire came out, and there was no question of any car going or coming from the scene of the fire. How would he know that? Don't you think that that's the matter that the police would want him to explain to them? Especially given the evidence on the scene of the crime that may be available or may have disappeared. What did he know about the crime scene that could be helpful? That what he told about the crime scene that could be helpful to the police in the investigations. This investigation was deliberately botched, and it was botched up on the direction of the state.
The investigative journalist acknowledged that no problems exist between Mr. Grant and Mr. Emmanuel. However, Mr. Isidore is the only person who would have a reason to want to put Mr. Emmanuel in a position where he cannot use evidence against him in court. Mr. Emmanuel has filed 42 criminal charges against Mr. Isidore.
Mr. Isidore left the partnership, and when he left the partnership, he left in the office of the firm the evidence of the payments, the millions of dollars of payments he made on behalf of Roosevelt Skerrit, where the source of the funding remains questionable to date. Mr. Isidore faced 42 counts of criminal misconduct before the court filed by Mr. Emmanuel for theft of fee income, for fraud, for false accounting, for all of these things. Mr. Isidore had his assets frozen in a Mareva injunction filed by Mr. Emmanuel in the court on the 18th of November 2010.
He went on to say Mr. Isidore, who clearly has a motive for the firebombing, to date has never been properly questioned nor subjected to any of the standard criminal investigation procedures. This, he says, shows that Mr. Isidore is untouchable because once he is included in this matter, other people will be, and this is what Mr. Astaphan is concerned about. In more news, criminality is a significant issue in society today, Inspector Weeks pointed out as he introduced his presentation at a panel discussion on Tuesday, 4th June. Addressing the topic, how males cooperate with the law to reduce and prevent violence, Mr. Wick commenced by saying that violence has become one of the most pressing social and governance challenges facing government, the region, and by extension, the world.
Violence, it has become one of the most acute development issues on the global agenda. And if we narrow it to the region, definitely for the CARICOM agenda. Crime and violence, in my view, and my research tells me, it has a significant relationship with poverty, a lack of economic opportunities, and education. We heard the doctor mention a lot about education, boys, men, and the interlink. And therefore it is of critical importance to address not only the symptoms of poverty or crime, gender-based violence, among other evil scourges in the society, but also to analyze and address the underlying structural causes of these problems.
If sustainable development has to be realized, the issue of crime, gender-based violence has to be faced head-on. The inspector urged all stakeholders in society to work collectively and join with law enforcement agencies to create an effective approach to confronting the rise in gender violence.
So crime, we are told today, it's a salient fact, an integral part of the risks we face in everyday life. Only today I was at the court and I had to deal with or to prosecute a clear gender-based violence, and in my view, very trivial, and it could have graduated, if you like, quote unquote, into a capital offense, namely murder.
The society, he said, has neglected to teach men about their roles in the home. The worldly view of a man's role, therefore, is that he provides financial support for his family.
Indeed, it's not enough. The role of leadership, of teaching and correcting the kids has fallen on the feminine side of the society. And what the lady or the wives are compensated with, especially if the man goes to play his dominoes and then he comes back about 12, 1 or 2 in the morning, and he makes an application to exercise his nocturnal functions. And if those applications are not approved, then he exercises his physical force or brute force on the woman in the presence of her children.
Mr. Weeks called out to the court system to help eradicate this growing issue.
I am of the view too that the court system must work. The enforcement with respect to gender-based violence and criminal activity at large, all the systems must work. There has to be synergies. Develop these synergies, the relationships with stakeholders, to ensuring that we can work together to minimizing impact. We cannot fool ourselves by saying that we can obliterate it, we can wipe it out. We definitely would be fooling ourselves. But
if people are walking away from the justice system with slaps on the wrist, in my view, it will continue to sustain criminality, the inspector concluded. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.
Yo, this is Michael Ginger, you know, this guy from Carry Me, the one sending all the buzz all over. You know, when you see me, you're on the best TV. It's called SAT TV, the people's choice, and Carry Me's choice.